In that moment, I broke down. I had tears. I was crying in front of the entire room.
You've revamped 322 companies. It's no easy feat.
I've been teaching you that for years. AI is going to create a human gap.
It is such a beautiful business strategy that people just overlook.
If people aren't taking the action, getting the results that you need, they just don't have enough belief in themselves.
Like they just go really deep into relationship using that giftology framework.
Most significant thing that you could do is focus on depth, not width.
What's up, everybody? Grant Wise. Welcome back to the Partner Profit Podcast, the show where we teach you how to turn your relationships into revenue. Today, I have a guest that I think can teach us how to do that. Mr. Jason Hull. Man, Jason, thanks so much for being with me today.
Grant, awesome to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for people that maybe don't know much about you, give us a little bit of the backstory. How'd you get to where you are today?
Oh man, a little backstory. So, well, I am the world's leading property management coach and consultant. And the backstory is I've never had a property management business ever. And I somehow stumbled into this industry and happened to be really good at helping entrepreneurs grow. But yeah, the backstory is I started a web design business back in 2008 and struggled a lot and eventually realized I didn't like the clients that I was working with. I didn't like being micromanaged by people. I didn't like what I was doing. And then I came across, just this idea of Simon Sinek of starting with why. And I was like, what's my why? And so I went down this rabbit hole of figuring that out and figuring out what my purpose was. And then I was like, I changed everything. I'm like, I only want to work with these type of clients and I want to have this type of team. And I changed everything in my business. And then I was a lot happier, ironically. So yeah. But yeah, I'm a dad. I've got 4 kids. I've made tons of mistakes in life that have helped me to learn and figure stuff out. I joke that my business DoorGrow was built on thousands of mistakes. And now we're the world leaders at coaching property management companies and helping them scale their businesses. And there you go.
How did you land in the property management sector if that wasn't really your core thing?
So the way I got into it is I had started this web design business. My brother had bought into a property management franchise. He was fresh out of college. Him and one of his best friend decided to buy this property management franchise. They had no doors. They didn't know what they were doing probably in the beginning. And they got a website from corporate and he was like, hey, here's this website from corporate, but I don't like it. And I'm like, cool, make these changes, do this. And I gave him some ideas because my degree and background was marketing. And I was like, who's your target audience? And this doesn't make sense. Why is pay rent the most significant call to action? Do you need more tenants? And it's like, no, I want owners. I want people that own property. I'm like, well, okay, this doesn't make sense then. Like, do this. So he's like, well, I made some of the changes you said, but can you just build me a new one? Can you just do one from scratch? And I was like, okay. So I built him a new website based on the best stuff I knew at the time. And it was a lot better than pretty much anything else out there. And then a lot of his fellow franchisees, some of which had thousands of doors, wanted what he had. And so then I started doing property management websites. Back then, that wasn't the only type of websites. I was getting any website project I could try to find, right? Local businesses and whatever. And some projects were cool and some were nightmares. And, I learned things like scope creep and content delay and all these problems that you deal with in that industry. But I learned to understand the property management industry really well. And eventually it shifted more into, instead of just figuring out what they needed for a website, which they wanted to grow, it started turning into coaching. Like, this is what you need to do and what I've seen others that are successful doing. And then eventually we were ranked nationally for property management web design. And then eventually I was rebranding property management companies because a big problem was they were branded as a real estate company and they had a lot of leaks. And so I started this program where I would clean up their businesses and eventually we ate our own dog food and rebranded as DoorGrow and started focusing on that niche.
Not a lot of people know what that means, the dog fooding reference. Can you define that for people?
So one of our key products is that we're kind of like bar rescue for property managers. We clean up and optimize their business. And so we are rebranding them, rolling out a whole new pricing model. We're redoing their website, their sales pitch, the actual product we in property management we call purpose. It's people don't buy property management. They buy safety and security and the person at the helm and the decisions they make, right? And so most property managers are selling the wrong product. That's probably true in most businesses and most industries. When their product is a vehicle to get people what they want, then that product isn't the actual product, right? And so our clients are the actual product, and they are trying to sell something people don't even want, property management. No investor wakes up in the morning and goes, I'm so excited to buy property management today. It's just not how they're thinking. So anyway, so we built this rapid revamp program that like rehabs their business. And the side effect of it, the first iteration of it I created, we were actually trying to get marketing clients because we do the website and then we do Google ads and stuff like this. It actually cannibalized our marketing because it was so effective at optimizing the leaks in their sales pipeline to help them facilitate more deals. It was sometimes doubling the amount of deals they were closing without changing their lead generation. So they're like, I don't need leads. And I was like, wait a sec. I built this because you were a really terrible client for lead gen because you had so many problems. I fixed the problems. Now you don't want it. And so I was like, we need to change what our offering is. And so then we shifted more into coaching and revamping businesses. And we've just gotten better and better at that. We've rebranded over 322 companies last I checked. So nobody's done more than that in this industry than us. And we've coached and we innovate on pricing. We changed these businesses dramatically. So
we talk about turning your relationships into revenue. In this situation, it sounds like the relationship with your brother kind of kicked off this amazing business that you guys have got. But when you think about that, turning your relationships into revenue, getting to a place where, you've revamped 322 companies is no easy feat. I would imagine it took a lot of relationships, but kind of walk me through that. When I say, Jason, how do I turn my relationships into revenue? What comes to mind for you?
I think this is going to be even bigger and more important with AI. AI is going to create a human gap, like a need for human connection and real connection. And we're waking up suddenly in this world, in the middle of this AI revolution of AI slop. We don't even know it's real anymore. Because of AI, it is so easy to create anything. So content creation is just through the roof. And so what I think is going to happen, because it just, to me, seems like it has to, there's going to be a dramatic shift towards what is real. And there's probably going to have to be some sort of verification of what is actually a real person. This video was created by a real person. Somebody's going to come up with that and I'll go along with it. But I think that human interaction, especially I think human to human in-person interaction, is going to be even more valuable and is going to be even more of a premium thing and even more important. So, for example, one of the things we do with every new client that has dramatically increased their results, decreased churn in a coaching business, which is usually a high churn business, is we onboard every new client in person. We have a monthly in-person meeting. They come out and we go deep and we get to know their business and they recognize I'm real, because I realized that everything that was done via just Zoom calls and coach like videos in our platform, there's something I've noticed about people's brains that we do not perceive this video, internet, whatever, as real life. It's not real. I'd had clients for like a year, coached them on things, met with them, and then they come out to our conference that we would do annually after maybe a year or maybe even 2 years, and I would teach the same thing. And then they'd come up to me like, oh my gosh, you blew my mind. I had this breakthrough. This is amazing. I'm like, what was it? And they'd say what it was, and I was like, I've been teaching you that for years. And they're like, I don't know, it's just different. And I thought, oh, that's odd. And then it kept happening. And it kept happening and it kept happening. And I was like, what is, and so my brain eventually figured out, I call it the real bubble. This bubble has to be burst or maybe it's the fake bubble, but it has to be burst to where they go, oh, Jason's a real person. Sarah, his wife's a real person. The people on these coaching calls sharing all their wins and results are real people. And once that's burst and they meet some people in a little cohort and they meet Sarah and I, and they we fist bump or we shake hands, we touch, right? They're like, they're real. There's something that shifts in their brain. And what I've noticed is then they absorb all the content differently. They get way different results. And so if we're going to turn relationships into revenue, I think the most significant thing that you could do is focus on depth, not width or broadness. It's depth. And people are like, how do you help people scale their companies so fast? And I'm like, I teach them to do the unscalable actions because that's what scales companies. So what's the most depth? In person. After that, maybe a Zoom call because you can still see body language. You can read them, you can sense emotion. And after that, maybe a phone call. After that, maybe text. And so as we step down, the further you get away from depth, the further away you get from impact, closing deals, results, everything. And so we are constantly asking, how can we shift towards greater depth? Because that makes everything better. Everything increases. While most of the world are like, how can I spam 1,000 people with AI today? Right? So
One of my favorite examples of this is of doing the unscalable work is Chick-fil-A
okay, yeah.
and their delivery service. So years back, I had an office, and every day around the same time, I would not have time to like go get lunch. So I would order Chick-fil-A for lunch and I would have them deliver it to the office. Now I would get like a 8 or a 12 thing of like their grilled chicken nuggets and then like a little
This
kale
is really
salad.
specific. People are going to get hungry listening to this.
This is like a, maybe at the time it was like a $10, $8 to $10 order. Well, this is not like a massive order.
Yeah.
And what's interesting to me about Chick-fil-A is I think the statistic is that they process 6 to 7 orders over the course of a minute. Like their efficiency is just unbelievable. And so I'm sitting here racking my brain, like, why would they send somebody in a car that they had to buy to drive 10 minutes to my office, walk in, hand me the thing. So maybe that's 3 to 5 minutes and then 10 minutes back when they could have just used that time to process another like 60 orders. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense to me. But I think that what you said is so true. The companies that seem to have the most success are really good at doing the most unscalable things that there are. And I would love, love, love if you could unpack that just a little bit more, because I think it is such a beautiful business strategy that people just overlook because they do exactly what you said. It's like, how could I spam 1,000 people so that I can get my name out there and win more business? And you guys have taken the opposite approach. Can you kind of unpack that philosophy?
Yeah, yeah. So when we go wide, I'll give you an example. Like clients come to us all the time and they're like, hey, I'm trying to grow my business. What have you been trying? Direct mail. Cool. What have you been doing? Oh, I'm sending out thousands of postcards every month. Is it working? Well, I did get one thing, or, it's never like, yeah, it's amazing. That's an example of not going deep, right? Like people get the card like, I don't know if I need that. And it's a long game. So I think like the Chick-fil-A story, I love it because you're like, why are they doing that? Because they're not maximizing for efficiency. What are they maximizing for? The problem is if we maximize for the wrong thing. Elon Musk is very big on this. He's like, when you optimize for the wrong things, you become very destructive in a business. There's another great book, if you're really into operational stuff, called The Goal by Elihu Goldratt. And this book, spoiler, the goal is money in the business. Sorry, I ruined the whole book. But the idea is that if you're optimizing every single piece, and it uses this hypothetical, or this, not hypothetical, but this story of this warehouse, that's a factory that's producing stuff, and how they're optimizing every single stage to maximum efficiency. But the problem was each stage was siloed and maximized for efficiency, but it was actually creating more work. It was creating more inventory. It was creating more waste because the next step in the flow didn't need 5,000 widgets. They needed 10, or whatever it was. And so now they have to store this. So now there's extra work to keep inventory. So when it actually helps you realize that if that department was lazier and worked less hard, but it would help the entire goal. because there would be less waste and it'd be more efficient because the entire flow, it always has to go at the pace of the slowest or lowest link in the chain. And it gives this example of this scout troop going on scouting, and the guy's like walking, and there's like the fat, slow kid that can't keep up, and he's at the back of the pack, and everybody's having to like walk really fast, and then they stop and they wait till he finally gets there, and then they keep going, and that kid gets no break, and they're like, this is super efficient because we're doing this, and this isn't safe. We need to stay together. So they figured out, oh, put the slowest one at the front. Put him at the front. Now he sets the pace. Now we don't have to stop. We all keep moving. Everybody's comfortable. And that's the analogy for how the business should work. And so we got to make sure we're optimizing for the right thing. So Chick-fil-A might be optimizing for connection, or they're optimizing for lifetime value. How do we keep clients loyal to us? Which is maybe how they made their chicken so addictive. I don't know. They put chemicals in it. I have no idea. But whatever.
A little bit of that.
Don't sue me, Chick-fil-A. Everybody loves you. But people are like super addicted to Chick-fil-A. They love it. I hear people talk about it all the time. I'm like, okay. They love it. They're like, and they start to having conversations. I've been in masterminds where two people are talking about Chick-fil-A. I'm like, what? It's weird. They're like, I know, I love this. Oh yeah, it's so good. And I'm ordering all the time, but it's because they've been optimizing for different things than just speed and efficiency and cranking dollars through. I'm sure they're making plenty of money. They aren't not optimizing for money, but in the smaller pieces, they're optimizing for the long game rather than the short-term efficiency to get that cheeseburger or chicken burger or whatever out immediately, right? Which the previous system, that was McDonald's and the Speedy system from the McDonald's brothers. I think In-N-Out still kind of follows that model. Super efficient. It was like revolutionary at the time. They were optimizing just for speed. Chick-fil-A, I'm sure didn't throw all of that out. Like they have some efficiency going on there for sure. But then they are optimizing for other things, right? Another great book on this is the book Giftology. And it talks about this idea that if you give people gifts, it can actually be more effective than marketing dollars. And that because it's creating depth, it's creating connection. And these are not gifts. He says, don't give gifts that are like Doorgrow branded. Hey, I gave you this Doorgrow shirt. Well,
I have a very good friend in Canada that adopted that business model on his real estate team. And he prides himself on knowing the shoe size of every single member of his team. He's got like almost 60 people on his team. I think the number was 7% of their total budget goes back into gifts. And it's just like, that's their business model, is knowing their team members' shoe sizes, knowing their children, their team members' children's and spouses' birthdays. Like they just go really deep into relationship using that giftology framework. And it works so well. They skyrocketed to like $500 million real estate team in 5 years doing this.
Yeah, because it's about relationship. People do business with people, and it's about relationships. One of the ways we've applied that's very simple, since we're a business mastermind, is if somebody has a problem or a challenge, I love books. I've read a lot of books. I know a lot of books. So if somebody brings up a challenge, like if somebody's dealing with something like that related to this, I'd be like, let's ship them Giftology. Send them the book. Let's send them the new model selling book from Jeremy Miner. Let's send them Profit First from Mike McCallowitz about, because they need some help with money, right? So we'll send them something, and, and I send it through Amazon. I put it in the gift bag. They do it for me. I put a note on it. Hey, I believe in you. And I send that out. One of the most powerful things. So this is going to get a little serious here. Okay. This last weekend, one of my mentors crashed in a plane and was killed. And his name was Aaron Stokes. He was an amazing man. And I've had a lot of coaches and a lot of mentors. He's one of the few that I look at and I want to be more like. And he crashed his plane. It took the life of his son, his nephew, who both were 21. And Aaron was 2 years younger than me. He was 46. And the life of a CEO that was a friend of his And and they were going skiing. They were going on a ski trip. It's just super tragic. And one of the things that Aaron taught me that was such a game changer for my business, because a lot of times coaches, we think it's tactics. I got to give them the right skills, the right knowledge, and I create training material and I create all this stuff. And then the clients don't get the results. They don't do it. They don't take action. And I remember he did everything on paper because he coached auto repair shops and he was like old school. He flipped over his flipboard. He writes on there, he writes training plus hope equals results. And he just taught us about how if they're not getting results, if people aren't taking the action, getting the results that you need, if you're not getting the performance from a team member, from a client or whatever, it might not even be the training. It might not be the knowledge is lacking. They just don't have enough belief in themselves. They don't have enough hope. And ever since he explained that and taught it, and then he illustrated it, it's almost never that I get off a coaching call with a client without saying, hey, you can do this. I believe in you. And I'm getting emotional because this is something that Aaron instilled in me. And I have one of my greatest memories that really had the biggest impact was my first high ticket coach was a friend of mine here in Austin named Alex Sharfin, and he coaches on operations. But I went to a mastermind. I was at this group thing that he had set up. I was his first high ticket coaching client, and he brought in a bunch of people that are past clients for consulting. And I felt like the ant in the room. I was struggling in my business back then. I didn't know what I was like. I was in a bad marriage. My spouse didn't believe in me. I didn't even believe in myself. And I explained, and I'm hearing all these business owners go around the room and they're sharing like, oh, I've got this, 8-figure business and I've got this 10, like they're saying all these numbers. And I'm like, I don't have one. I'm not one. I'm not $1 million. I don't have 1 million in revenue. And a year, I felt like the ant in the room, right? I'm like, I'm not even supposed to be here. I feel so like insecure, and they get to me and I'm like, well, I'm doing this and this is my business and I'm going to do this and this and whatever. And Alex interrupts me and he's like, well, oh yeah, that'll never work. And I was like, no, I'm not. And he's like, if you're going to start it, you should do this. And I'm like, I think he assumed maybe because my numbers were so bad that I was a startup, but I've been doing for years. Right. And I was like, no, I am doing this right now. And then I explained what he was missing. I explained it. And then he looked at me, he paused, and he's got this gruff voice. And he's like, Jason, you have a $20 million company and you don't even know it. He validated me. And in that moment, I broke down. I had tears. I was crying in front of the entire room because it had been so hard. And I didn't even believe in myself then. Alex was my first high ticket coach, and I got lucky. He believed in me. He was like, you need to go get EMDR therapy because you have trauma from just running your business. You need to go get a personal trainer and start taking care of yourself. You're a $1 million racehorse. You should treat yourself as such. Racehorses take better care of themselves than you, like all this stuff. And I was like, yeah, okay. And I started doing this. And then I was like, why am I in this bad relationship with somebody who's cheated on me and treats me poorly and is an alcoholic? Like, I was like, I'm changing all of this, right? And so yeah, he believed in me and had that impact. And so when Aaron taught that principle, it was like the light bulb went off. I was like, oh yeah, this changed my whole life. I didn't even realize that how impactful that could be. I want to do that for all of my clients. And so I do that with every client. I tell them, hey, I believe in you. You can do this. And that makes a massive difference. That's depth.
Absolutely. Man, that is a beautiful and inspiring message. I really appreciate you taking the time to share that. And I really appreciate you being vulnerable for a minute and walking through some of the lessons you've learned and from your mentors and just the impact it's had on you. It's amazing. It's very inspiring.
Yeah.
I go back to some of what we're talking about in, are you optimizing for the right thing? And I think I have a little bit of a hunch, but I would love to hear what do you really optimize for in relationships? And I think I maybe heard depth, but if you could walk us through that, I think it could really help a lot of people.
That's a really good question. If I think about it, I think I guess I've never really thought about, but when I'm creating relationships with people, My focus is how do I optimize for contribution? How do I benefit them the most? That's really, I think, it. It's contribution. I really believe Alex Sharfin taught me this. He says he was really big on contribution. One of my key frameworks that I've developed, I call the 4 reasons for starting a business. And if you do these 4 things, you will have a lot more money, a lot more profit, a lot more revenue. But if you're misaligned with these, it will be very hard. A lot of people think we start a business to make money. Elihu Goldratt in The Goal says that's the goal, it's money. But I've coached hundreds and hundreds of entrepreneurs, and I know with pretty strong certainty that the beginning stage for most entrepreneurs is they make more and more money and they have less of these things as they do it. So the first reason for starting a business, primary, number 1, is fulfillment in life. It's fulfillment. Number 2, it's freedom, autonomy, choice, right? It's freedom. We want more and more fulfillment and freedom, but you can make a lot more money and have less fulfillment and freedom in your business. That's actually the default in the beginning for most entrepreneurs. Third, once we have fulfillment and freedom, it's contribution. We now want to benefit others because we're doing all right, right? We want to benefit our family. We want to benefit our clients. We want to benefit our team. And that's why businesses exist. Businesses, if they're legitimate, exist for contribution. They should be making a real impact or a difference. Otherwise, they're stealing people's money. They're snake oil. It's that simple. Contribution. Once we are able to contribute, and contribution is its own reward, nothing feels as good. You want fulfillment and a sense of freedom, like contribution is just the icing on the cake. It feels so great. I'm getting chills just thinking about it. I love being able to benefit other people and to see that impact and to hear that their life is changing and transforming. And the after contribution, it's support. You can't have those first 3 without the 4th, which is support. You have to have a good team. You cannot there's no version of running a business usually as an entrepreneur in which you enjoy wearing every single hat in your own business. No personality type is schizophrenic enough to exist that they can wear every hat and be happy and they love it. And so we have to learn to rely on people and get the right support in order to get more fulfillment, freedom, and contribution. So that's why we start a business. That's where we eventually build a business. Otherwise, we'd just be freelancers. We just do one thing.
Yeah.
We'd be some sort of specialist, but we build a business because we want fulfillment, freedom, contribution, support. Now there is what I call the 5th reason. And this is what makes every entrepreneur different from everyone else on the planet. Is the 5th reason we want also, but the 5th reason is everyone else's highest priority usually. And that's safety and security, or safety and certainty. So most people on the planet want safety and certainty first. It's more important than freedom. We saw this during the pandemic, a huge polar divide, right? And it was just, everyone had different hierarchy of needs, but some people were like, forget your freedoms. I want to feel safe. Safety first. And others were like, that's crazy. Entrepreneurs in general were like, what kind of crazy planet am I living in with a whole bunch of aliens where I'm a minority, where freedom is not more important than feeling safe? And so there was a divide. I remember walking around Costco without a mask on in Austin, and people were like, what are you doing? And then other people I saw without a mask, I was like, are you a business owner? And they're like, yeah. And we're looking at each other like, what's going on? This is crazy. Everyone's crazy. It's like the zombie apocalypse. People lost their minds. But that's the thing, is the people that work for us, they want safety. So we have to recognize that. Usually our clients, that's why they come to us. Like a lot of my clients, investors that want to work with property managers, they want safety and security. That's the product, right? And so we have to recognize that not everybody's like us if we're a business owner or we're an entrepreneur. We're different. We're the minority. And we strangely are willing to forego safety and certainty to some degree in order to have those other things. But I have safety and security in my business. I do that through process documentation and systems and all this stuff. I've created a system. I'm not afraid to lose people. I can get replaced quickly. I have a good hiring system. I've got the machine in place that gives me safety and security. But that wasn't my first goal. Long-winded answer, but there you go.
No, I love it. This has been such a good conversation. I want to respect your time. I always like to ask everybody, you've given so much to us in the last 30-ish minutes. How can we give back to you? How can we, as listeners of the Partner and Profit podcast, partner with you? What's important to you right now? How can we support you?
For those listening, it might be helpful, or they might get some value by connecting with me or following me on social media. I'm always working with coaches, but one of my coaches right now is a YouTube coach, and I'm going to be working on launching my personal brand. So feel free to connect with me on any social platform. In my handle everywhere is King Jason Hull, Hull. And if randomly you want to start a property management business or you're in the property management industry, check out doorgrow.com. And that's basically it.
Love it. We'll make sure that we link up the ways that people can connect with you in our show notes. And if you're listening to this, I highly encourage you to do so. Jason, I appreciate you so much for spending some time with me. This has been awesome.
Yeah, it's been great. Thanks for pulling some information out of my head I may not have even remembered. So awesome.
No, I love it. I appreciate it. Thank you all for continuing to listen to the Partner and Profit podcast. This is another epic conversation. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.